Rebecca. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Good, thank you. So again, just want to thank you for coming. This is our last session today. I know that the last time we spoke face to face, it was about a month ago.
Mhm.
And the last time we spoke, we also did talk about termination and what that means. So for today, before we, go into everything, I do want to just reiterate some things and clarify what exactly termination means for us.
Okay.
Um, Termination is not as scary as it sounds. For therapy, termination is just a conclusion to our journey when you and I feel that you've taken the necessary steps and progress has been made in your journey to better the things that you came into counseling with.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't call me or reach out to me at any point that you truly feel that you need me.
Okay.
You will always have my number, always have my contact information. But like I said, termination is just a conclusion to our journey because we both feel that you are in a place where you can continue on
Okay.
without me. Okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So, since this being our last session, I do just want to touch on a few things
Okay.
just to kind of see how everything is going since it has been a month now. The last time we spoke, we talked about work, and then how work is kind of weighing down on you just a little bit and things like that. You also talked about anxiety as well and how that can kind of like overwhelm you at points in your life. And then you also talked about family guilt as well. Okay. So I do want to start with work and ask you how work has been.
So work's been pretty good. It's been a little bit off because they're redoing my background check, so I haven't been able to go into the office.
Okay.
So I've just been working from home. So originally I thought that was going to be a really short term, like just a few days, but it's been I think about 3 weeks. So that's kind of been I guess a little bit odd for me because I usually like to be around people. Like sometimes my coworkers bother me with like their like lack of compassion, like we talked about. So not being around that has been, I think, a positive thing. And I think that like I've been using a lot of the strategies, like breathing techniques and stuff, whenever I'm kind of starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed, as opposed to at work I'd kind of get distracted and maybe go out and like talk to people. So I think I've been a lot more productive. Like, just been getting my work done a lot quicker, and I was originally like really scared to be home, but it's been a pretty positive experience, so I'm enjoying that.
That's good. I'm glad that everything has turned out a little bit more positive for you when it comes to work. You said that now that you've been at work for this time, that you are kind of away from that environment, so it's bringing you a little bit more peace and things like that. I know that work can tend to boggle you down, especially if you're there for a long period of time throughout the day, throughout the week, month, things like that. So I'm glad that's been a positive experience for you. Also, I know that last time we spoke, that your anxiety kind of, paralleled with work and what was going on at work. So how has your anxiety been?
My anxiety's definitely been better. Like it's definitely still there, but I feel like I'm better at sort of like managing it. Like the times when I start to feel kind of like panicky and just overwhelmed, I've been better at kind of just addressing or like examining the actual situation and realizing, that I might feel stressed out, but there's no need to feel panicky about anything because none of it's gonna harm me in any way. Like, in the long run, some of these things are small. Like if I'm, kind of freaking out about a work deadline, it's nothing monumentally bad is going to happen if I'm a day late with that. So I think I've been using a lot of like the calming techniques to just kind of bring myself down when I get to that point. So I think I'm doing a lot better with
That's good. Awesome. That's really great to hear. You did mention about using the breathing techniques and things like that. I know the last time we spoke, I gave you a little bit of information about the app called Headspace.
Yes.
How has Headspace been for you?
That's been great. Like I've really been enjoying that. I've used that as well as a few other apps that I download on my phone, and yeah, it's definitely given me. Like I had a lot of trouble with it at first because I get bored easily and like I like to be doing something, so it was sort of hard for me to think like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here for a few minutes and like not do anything. But so the first couple times were rough and I was really like agitated. But once I actually started committing myself to it, it definitely started getting better.
Good, good. That's really good. Um, and I know with anxiety, um, there's a lot of coping mechanisms
Mhm.
and things like that. And I know one of the biggest ones, especially now in today's time, is just doing a little bit of meditation. I know
Mhm.
Headspace, of course, is a good one for you. And I also mentioned doing like just regular meditation and
Mhm.
breathing, prayer, maybe. Um, have you been doing the meditation either before work or after work to kind of like bring you back to a calm or
Yeah, I'm trying to do it like before bed because
hmm
that's been one of my biggest struggles is getting in bed and I'm feeling really tired, but I can't like switch my brain off. So I'm trying to do that usually about half an hour or so before bed to just
okay.
kind of like start to wind down, and then I go through like my regular process of getting ready for bed, and then get in bed. And if I am still unable to fall asleep, kind of focusing on doing the same thing, maybe
hmm
not guided by the app, but just focus on like what the app is having me do with the breathing and focusing on like a calming scene and stuff like that. So yeah, I would usually try to do it at night as opposed to the morning.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good routine to
Mm-hmm.
do, especially before bed. You did mention before that you were having a little bit of sleeping issues.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to be doing that before bed to kind of calm yourself down, get you in that kind of mindset, that's actually a very great practice. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you for doing
Oh, thank
that.
you.
Um, And then, of course, going back to work just a little bit, I know that you also talked about having a little bit of issues asking for help at
Mm-hmm.
work. So that kind of course, contributed a little bit to the anxiety
Yeah.
when the workload got a little too much. So, how has asking for help been for you?
I guess it's been kind of more necessary because since I'm home, I need people to like send me files as opposed to being able to just like walk next door and get them. So it's kind of forcing me to ask for help in some ways. So I think I've been doing better about that, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
just need to keep that up once I'm able to go back into the office. I know I
Mm-hmm.
need to kind of still keep up doing the same kind of practices.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm.
And so, with asking for help and needing to get those emails sent to you since you are working from home, um, does it make you feel better? Does it make you feel like you're less of a burden? Does it make you feel more of a burden? Like, what would you say it makes you feel when you do have to ask for help?
I would say initially, like I was feeling really guilty because the reason that I'm not able to go to work was because when they did my background check, I failed to submit this one form that was necessary for my out of state background check. So I was kind of feeling bad that I missed that, and I was kind of really worried that everyone at work was, kind of like fed up with me not showing up, and I had to keep reminding myself, like, okay, they know I'm not allowed to be there, that they're not just like, wow, she's been refusing to show up for work for a while. So I think once I kind of realized that and started to think that, like, I can't read people's minds and I need to stop trying to do that,
Mm-hmm.
that's been really helpful. So I think it's been, like, I've been able to calm myself down
Okay.
as far as like ask for help. And because initially, I didn't want to because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they're going to be mad that I'm not there. And it's like, okay, no, they're not because they know I can't be.
Mm-hmm. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you've definitely felt more calm about asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
There's never anything wrong with asking for help. Um, sometimes when things get a little too much for you, that's the thing that you need to do is just kind of step out of yourself and say, hey, you know, okay, let me put all of my fears, worries behind me
Mm-hmm.
and let's get this done. And that could be also done with somebody else being present or somebody else just at least extending that hand. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you were able to start getting the help that you need in terms of work and things like that. Um, and then also with work, I know that there was other things that were kind of troubling you
Mm-hmm.
with your other coworkers, and you mentioned like a little bit of lack of compassion from
Yeah.
them. Um, and I know that I suggested that you maybe talk to your supervisor about
Mm-hmm.
that, see where his thoughts are about it, and just to kind of express yourself to your supervisor. So
Mm-hmm.
how has that been for you?
Well, so my actual boss he's seems pretty compassionate. So yeah, I kind of talked to him about, like, I didn't want to approach it as like accusing anyone, like, oh hey, she doesn't really seem to care. So I just kind of approached it as I've noticed some people seem really callous, and I want to avoid like ending up that way. And he's much older. He's like 70 something. So I feel like he's been doing this for a long time and he
Yeah.
still has a high level of compassion. So I just kind of had a long conversation with him about that and about part of compassion being not judging other people for their sort of lack of compassion, if you will. But so I think I felt a lot better after that because he just kind of gave me like some advice on how to stay like present emotionally and not just shut down. And he was talking about especially when like you're young, it's hard to be compassionate but not be too like involved. Not go home and worry about my clients all night. So I think after that conversation, I felt a lot better
Okay.
just about myself and kind of more accepting of like others and like that their own struggle has been their journey and it's not mine to pry like poke at.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, with talking to your supervisor, do you guys have talks normally, regularly? Is it like a once a week thing, once a month thing?
No, it's kind of just whenever, like, it happens when it happens, kind of. It's a very unstructured work environment, so we don't
Okay.
really have like scheduled times to talk. It's just um, like a lot of the times if I go out of my office, his office is sort of like the front of the building, so like I'll just stand with him and kind of chat. Sometimes about work and sometimes just about like life in general. So I'd say probably at least once a week. It hasn't been happening obviously for the past 3 because I haven't been there. So, um, but yeah, before then it's been probably once maybe twice a week.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Whether if it's once or twice a week or just in passing, being able to talk to your supervisor, just expressing how you feel, maybe in that moment or how you've been feeling for that week. That's a really good thing to do. So I'm very happy about that. I do want to kind of divert just a little bit
Okay.
and talk about family guilt. I know that was something we mentioned in our last session,
Yeah.
and even in our initial session as well. And the last time we spoke about family guilt and things like that, we talked about how, moving far away from home really kind of played into that. There was a little bit of initial hesitation from your family about you coming to grad school, and then also concerns about like debt and things like that, just
Yes.
focusing on your career instead of going back to school. One of the homeworks that I told you to do or suggested you do for that was to just take breaks from school or career life and, just be able to talk to your family. And you did tell me that you already started that process of talking to them, taking a break, and that kind of made you feel better. So now that it's been quite a while since our last session, I want to know how that's been going, how that's been for you.
I'd say it's been going very well. Like I think I've had a couple of personal like kind of like revelations that have made things a lot easier. Like I know that when I moved initially, part of it was for grad school and part of it was because I was just kind of trying to run away from like everything in my life at the time. And so at some point over the last summer, I'd gotten some bad news, and my idea was, okay, I'm just gonna wait until the end of my lease, and I'm just gonna move back. And I changed my mind, and I was initially feeling really guilty about that. And I kind of realized that if I moved back, then the next time I got bad news or something bad happened, I'm just gonna want to move again. Like no matter what, that's always gonna kind of be like my initial like reaction is gonna be, oh, just leave and things will be better someplace else with a fresh start. So kind of realizing that I can't just like up and leave every time I like feel the need to, that like I have commitments here has really helped. And then my parents have, especially my mom, has come around a lot more. Like she's kind of realized that even just with the counseling degree, there's flexibility in the job path that I can do. So, because initially she was thinking like, okay, if you're a counselor and you get into this, then you're in all this debt, and if you don't like it, then what are you gonna do? And so she's realized how like open that degree, how many doors that degree kind of opens for me. So she's been sort of backed off a lot about that, and now she's become very supportive. The one problem that remains is my older sister. Like she had a really hard time recently, and she was asking me like, okay, so when are you moving back? Like she wanted me there, and I kind of all my life I've kind of always like dropped everything and like helped her no matter what. So it was kind of like a big pull for me was like her asking me to come back was definitely like a big thing. But then like I kind of realized that like I have to do what I want to do, otherwise like if I move back and I'm not happy that living there, then I'm not gonna feel close to her. I'm gonna probably resent her.
Okay.
So I think it's better for our relationship actually for me to stay where I am and kind of do what I want to do and consider her feelings in how I behave and everything, but not change my whole life to kind of make her happy.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of good things from the experience you've had over the last month. One of the things that you said basically was putting yourself first with your sister. You've always just kind of dropped everything and, went to kind of be by her side. But now you're kind of putting yourself first and making sure that things that you set yourself to do, you're going to accomplish those. And that's a really good thing. I like that you have started doing that. Also with like family turning around, like you said, your mom is starting to realize like, okay, maybe there are other options and career paths within counseling that you can do that could potentially make money or make more money. So I'm glad that that has been a revelation with your family, with your mom. And then also for yourself, realizing that you can't just get up and leave, as much as we want to, and things do get hard. Just getting up and go sometimes isn't the best option. So I'm glad that you've already realized it, thought about it, and kind of stuck to your guns as far as finishing this goal of doing grad school and getting towards the end, working towards your licensure, things of that nature. So I'm really happy about that. I think with your family guilt that you mentioned before, there are some healthy guilts as well, which could be like, say, for instance, if you haven't talked to your family in a long time, and they're concerned about you, but you have been kind of putting it off. There was no pressure from them or anything, but that's technically considered like healthy guilt, which is fine every now and again. And of course, like you said, you're taking the time out to talk to them and see, how they're doing and things of that nature. But I think as of now, what you were telling me, your family guilt that you did have is kind of, slowly going away. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too.
That sounds like you're heading definitely in the right direction. So yeah. Let's see here. So work, anxiety, guilt, all of those from our discussion today have seemed like there have been positive turnarounds. And that's always the goal here in therapy, is to make sure that we have a positive result or solution to get to. I feel like you've definitely done the work with your meditation, using Headspace that you said that works for you, talking to your supervisor, just expressing how you feel. Also, just getting support since you have been home from work, just getting that support that you need from maybe like coworkers, or even if it's not, coworkers, you've been getting help. And then, of course, again, you putting yourself first in a sense when it comes to like your family and the guilt that you did have. So I'm really happy about the progress there. I do see that our time is kind of winding down for today's session. Again, I'm very proud of the growth that you've shown here in counseling with our journey. I do believe that you've allowed yourself to take a look at all the things that have been concerning you in your life when it comes to work and anxiety and family, things like that. And you've, like I said, you've put in the work, and it seems like the techniques and suggestions have been very beneficial to you. You've applied them where they need to be applied, and I'm very happy about that. So again, we've already talked about this being our termination session, but if any time that you feel that you need me, I feel like things are kind of reverting back, don't hesitate to call me, or reach out, email, or even reach out to my supervisor, Dr. Roberts. We're always going to be here for you, but of course, I'm excited to see where your journey goes from here. And I know that you'll do good. Your progress will continue. So thank you very much, Becca. It was a pleasure.